this is how to manage budgeted cost versus actual cost for projects or phases or both within Monday.com. Quite a mouthful. I'm going to show you how it works. If you'd like us to help you set up Monday.com for your business, check out the link below. Now, as you can see here, I'm inside of our Monday.com system. Now, the purpose of this would be if you have a list of things that you need to purchase for a particular project and you have a budget for those things, and you can group those budgets however you like, and then you have actual spend, which is purchase orders registered against a particular project or against a particular phase. And then you want to see where your budgeted cost was for a particular thing versus your actual cost against the purchase orders, so you can see if you are ahead of budget or behind budget, if that makes sense, above budget or below budget. That's the one I'm going for. And then you can manage accordingly. This is quite comprehensive, granted. I'm going to walk you through a simple-ish demo, simple as I could possibly make it. And then you can kind of expand on this. I'll show you how you can expand on this and make it more complicated as you go. So I'm going to go ahead, press the plus button. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to go ahead and do is create a projects board here. So this is just a really standard projects board, okay? Leave the privacy as main. If you want it private and you only want you and select individuals to see it, that's fine, or shareable, entirely up to you. I'm just going to select the project's naming convention on here. Again, that doesn't matter too much. It's not overly important. So our projects board has been created. Now, I'm not going to do anything actually with this particular board. If you want to know how to manage projects within Monday.com, I have 1,000,001 videos on that on my YouTube channel. This is for something very, very niche. So I'm just going to change the grouping name to projects. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do here is delete everything. All right. So just imagine this is a nicely formatted projects board. The thing is, if I waste about 20 minutes walking you through how to set up a projects board, we're never going to actually get to the crux of this video. So I'm just going to call this example project. Example project number 1, or let's just say 1. And then I will copy this, Command C, Command V, change that to 2, and the same again, number 3. So we've got 3 different projects. Magic. Okay, cool. So now we've got our projects board really, really fancy and sophisticated with hundreds of thousands of automations. Now what we want to go ahead and do is create another board, and this is going to be called our budgets board, okay? We can have the privacy options again as you want, and then I'm going to go ahead and select budgets as an option here. I didn't actually realize that was an option, so that's quite cool. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now what we're going to do is obviously just wait for this to populate. You can see here I've got my projects and then I've got my budgets. Now my budgets are going to be associated with my projects, but we are going to delineate between the type. Okay, so let me just walk you through it again. I'm going to keep this relatively simple to start with. So I'm just going to change the group title to budgets. And then what I am going to do is create a connection column between our budgets board and our projects board. Okay, so connect boards, create a connection between the two. So we've got budgets and then projects, create a two-way connection, which is really important that we select, by the way. And then I'm just going to change this from plural to singular. And then I'll go over to my projects board. You will see here now that we have a budget connection. I'm just going to call this budget items and hit enter. Okay, so now we're on our budgets board. I'm just going to delete these other columns just to keep things clean. Delete for the time being. Yes, go please. Thank you very much. Right, okay, cool. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and add a numbers column. So this is going to be our budget budget amount. Hit enter, and then let's just put 10,000 in as an example. Let's say that this is in the dollar. Let's just keep things simple. So now I've got a budget amount, okay, and then I'm gonna have a budget type. So I'm gonna have a status column, and then I'm gonna say budget type, or what you could call this is resource. Probably more applicable to call it a resource. So then we'll say labor. We might have materials. We might have, what else could we possibly have? Labor, materials, vehicles. I don't know. We might have materials, machinery. Yeah, that's a good idea. This is kind of for construction. Let's put compute as well. I don't know. You might have compute costs. It could be anything, right? resource. There's going to be specific to your business, but essentially what we want to do is we want to add budgets for our different resources for our projects. So this is our $10,000 labor budget, for example, project number 1. Now we're going to add another one, for example, project number 1. This is going to be 20,000, and then this particular resource is going to be materials. And then we might have a $50,000 budget for the same project, but a different resource. Okay, so the resource being, let's say, compute, as an example. Okay, and then we'll just hide the column summary. So now if I go here and you can see we've got our budget items, I can then mirror across our total budget. Okay, so our total budget for this particular project across all of our different resources is 80,000. Okay, cool, nice. So we can see what our budget is for this particular project. Now, what I would also find very important is to delineate between budget based on resource on a project level. Okay, so we're kind of feeding it up. So we're feeding budgets up and we're also feeding projects up. If there was a way I could draw on here, I kind of give you a whiteboard example of kind of how it works, but I don't think there is. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to create a formula column, okay? And we're just going to say to the AI assistant, there's no point in trying to do this with the other stuff, and we've got AI available here to do it for us, is we're just going to say, give me the budget amount only where resource is labor. So what we're telling Monday.com is we only want to see the amount if resource is equal to labor, then show the budget amount. And you can see here that that didn't work. Let's find out why. Surely it's not a capital letter set formula. It is indeed. Wow, that's quite impressive. So now what we're saying is if this is equal to materials, then it's not going to show anything. So we're going to say labor budget. Now, what you can do is kind of hide this or like tuck it away somewhere on this particular board, because this could get quite messy. What we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the column and then we're going to just change the type to, let's say in this instance, materials. Okay, and I'll show you why we're doing this in a moment. So then got materials budget. And then we're going to do exactly the same one more time. I mean, we've got quite a few: labor, materials, vehicles, machinery, and compute, but I'm just going to select, typically you would select the options for all of these, but I'm only going to select the compute one in this particular instance. So then we'll duplicate. I'm just thinking, is this video going to get any views? I doubt it. And then we'll just say compute budget, hit enter. Nice. Okay, cool. So then we've got compute budget amount set formula. Okay, cool. So now what we can do is go to our projects board. So we, before I jump ahead, actually, as you can see, we've clearly delineated the budgets by resource. So if I then go to my projects board, I can then mirror across, or I can mirror upwards. I can let's say the labor budget. So we've got total budget, we've got labor budget, we've then got add mirror. We then have material budget. And then we've got mirror one final time. So you can see why this is quite helpful, right? So then, and I'll show you why this is going to be helpful. Okay, this is not that exciting at the moment. And we then got compute budget as well. Okay, budget, hit enter. So I've got all my budget items: total budget, the labor budget, the materials budget, and the compute budget. On here, what I might do is just show the column summary and just make this into the dollar, because then it will show on the mirror up in the dollar, in the actual currency that this is associated with, as opposed to just being a number. It just looks a little bit better. So you can see here now we've got the numbers, right? So now we need to think about, okay, purchase orders, and I'm going to do a separate video on just purchase orders specifically and how to set that up and applications for purchase orders, etc, etc. But what we then want to do is create another board. So we create board here and call this purchase orders. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be purchase orders. This also could just be one avenue. You might have purchase orders, you might have also orders, you might have a time tracking system that's connected. This all feeds into the same place for that particular project. But for simplicity's sake, and just so you get the idea, I'm just going to show you purchase orders. Again, we got main, private, just leave it as is, and then I'm just going to call this purchase orders, and then press create board. Cool. So now we should have the purchase orders board. There we go. I'm just going to strip it back to absolute basics again. And then I will delete all of this. Delete. That can go. Goodbye. Date column can go. Goodbye. File column can go. Goodbye. Now what would happen in this particular instance with the purchase orders board is people, and this is quite common if you're out in the field, someone would submit via their phone into the purchase order. And if the purchase order is approved, then and only then is it associated with a cost on the project level. And you can set up kind of similar automations that we've done on the budgets earlier for that sort of thing. But what we want to do here is we essentially just want to say anytime a purchase order is created, so we've got purchase order, then what's going to happen is it's going to connect to our project, and then we will be able to see the total purchase orders versus the total budget, and then we can see the breakdown by the different resources as well. Okay, so first and foremost, let's just create a connection between the two. So we'll connect the board, so we'll connect the purchase order to the projects board, make sure we press create two-way connection. So then we've got project singular, and then we can go over to here and we've got purchase orders. PO items is what we'll call this. Okay, and then what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to add a numbers column. So numbers, and then our numbers column is going to be our cost. Again, we'll make this into the dollar, and then I'm just going to say this is 5,000. Okay, so what we'll then do is associate this with example project number one. We'll say that this was 20,000. Example project number one. And then we can make this again example project number one and just say this is I think 30,000. There we go. And I will just hide the column summary. So then what I'll do is go to my projects board, and then I can mirror up, right? I can mirror up the total cost from all of the purchase orders up onto here. So now we've got total budget, and I've now got total cost. Okay, and you can see that there's different colors for the budget and the cost, and I can see well total budget is 80,000, total cost is 55,000, and then I can add another column to the right, which is a formula column, and then I can work out the difference between the two. So I just say profit. Yeah, just profits. I mean, it might not necessarily be profits if this is what you've budgeted, and then obviously you budgeted in your profit outside of your budget, but you you kind of get the idea. So this is quite easy. We just say total budget minus total cost, hit enter, let AI do its thing. There we go, it's set. And then you can see here we've got our profits of 25,000 US dollars for this particular project so far. Now you can then go ahead and do some like coloring if you wanted to. So conditional coloring where sell, let's say profits is greater than 20,000, then make it red. I think, I don't know, let's just save that as new view, or actually in this particular instance it would be green, I'm guessing, so that's indicating that we're still in the green. So you can see here, then if this changes and goes below, then it would go into different colors. You can do some conditional color formatting if you want to get really fancy. But the other point that I want to note here is obviously working out our budgets by our different resource types as well. So we go back to our purchase orders board, we're going to add a status column, and then our status column is going to be our resource type. Now, I remember we had labor, or we're definitely using labor. We're definitely using materials, I think. And then I think we're using compute as well. Now, obviously, you would add all of the different options and then have different formula columns for each ones, but labor, materials, and compute, I'm just going to keep this simple. So we would hide the column summary and then just say this is labor, this is materials, and this is compute. Click in and just get rid of these excess status columns or status labels, as we do not need them. And then you can see here what I'm going to do is exactly the same. So formula, and I'm just going to create a new formula column. Now what you can do is literally just copy and paste this here, and then just change it from budget amount to cost. Okay, and then just go ahead and press set formula. Resource type. So resource type, set formula. So now and then we just go ahead and set that as the US dollar, and then hide the column summary, and then I'll just say what was this? Labor cost. There we go. And then what we can do, again, just duplicate this, keep this really simple. So column only, and then this would be our materials cost. And then we'll just click into this and change this to materials. And then just press set formula. And then again, one final time, we'll duplicate this. And then we will add in our compute cost, and then just change this to compute. And press set formula. Okay, so you get the idea now. We've got labor cost, material cost, compute cost. If I change this to compute, then it will change to there. Very simple. Now what we do is obviously we've got our purchase orders. Think purchase order sits here, compute sits here, and then it all goes up to the project level. And then we're going to go to our project, and we want to obviously add our mirrors from our purchase orders. So we're going to mirror up from the purchase orders for each of the resource items. So we've got labor costs. We've got labor cost, and then what I can do is I can reposition this next to our labor budget, and then I could go ahead and add another mirror, and then I can go ahead and mirror this from the PO items to our material cost. Just change the name, material cost, hit enter, and reposition that, and then I can do it one final time, so mirror, and then we go ahead and go connect, PO items, and then go compute cost. There we go. Really simple. And then just put it next to our compute budget. So now I've got compute budget, compute cost. I've got material cost and material budget. I'm just making these a little bit bigger so it's easy to see. And then I've got a labor budget and labor cost. Now, obviously, I will restate this. We would do this for every single resource type. And then what we can go ahead and do is we can go ahead and add a column to the right, and we can have not a mirror, we'll add a formula column. And this will allow us to work out the difference between our labor budget minus labor cost, and then hit enter. So now we insert this in, and then we can see labor profits. And you can see here at the moment, just making this the dollar, at the moment we are actually profitable on our labor. And again, you can do the color conditioning if you want to. And then we go add column to the right here. Again, we'd add a formula column, and we would just say material budget minus material cost, hit enter. And then we can insert that in, nice and simple. And then we just say material profits. You can see here, there is none. We have not made or lost. We are exactly on budget for this particular one. So that's quite interesting. Now, if I change the material cost, if I go to our purchase order and change the material cost to 25,000, which obviously I'll do here, 25,000, then you can see here on our project level, we are minus 5,000 profit. It's important to note. So we're losing money on our material at the moment. And then I'll just add another one, which would be, what would we do here? Again, formula. And then we go ahead and say, labor compute budget, sorry, I need to use the AI assistant here, compute budget minus compute cost, hit enter, and then what we go ahead and do is just press insert, set formula, and then you can see here compute profit, and then I can hide the column summary. There we go. Actually, no, sorry, I do want to show it just very briefly, so I can just set the currency to the US dollar or whatever the currency that you're using. Then I can hide the column summary again. So now I can see I've got our total profits. So total profit. I've got our labor profits, sorry, that plural OCD kicking in. Total profits, labor profits, material profits, compute profit. I can now see that labor profit we're actually losing money on. So what I'll do quickly is just create a new conditional view. So this would make it bright red if the, and I'm just going to, you can do this for all of them if you want, but I'm just going to use this as an example. So we've got material profits is equal to or greater than, no, equal to or less than is the one I want, 0 as an example. So you can see that because that's minus 5,000, we can see that we're in the red for that. Labor profits, let's just add them all for the sake of completion. So we'd say labor profits is going to be where labor profit is equal to or greater than 0. I mean, you'd have to do this for each one, wouldn't you? I'm thinking about it. Logically, yeah, you would. Okay. I'm I'm just gonna select where we are, if we're in profit or not in profit. So we would say that, let's say our compute profit is equal to or greater than 0, we're in the green. I mean, you could even have a buffer if you wanted to. So if it gets to within 5,000, it starts to go orange as a warning sign. But this is how you could manage budgets and purchase orders within Monday. So someone obviously has to manually add the budgets in. So they'd say for project number 2, this is the budget, and then you could add more data points, more descriptions of what that budget thing is for. We've then got the purchase orders. Now the purchase orders can come in via form submissions. Again, I'm going to do a separate video on how to manage purchase orders within Monday.com, which I think would be quite helpful. And then obviously they can roll up to the project. Now what you can also do is roll it up to a phase. So you might have multiple phases within a particular project. So you roll it up to the phase, and then you can, I'm pretty sure, I'm almost 95% confident, you've got another roll up in the mirror columns to go from phase then to project level. So you could see your profitability on a phase level, and then also that would roll up to a project level as well. So hopefully this has given you some insight into kind of budgets, actuals, purchase orders, managing profitability by resources within Monday.com, maybe giving you an example of maybe something you hadn't considered before or what's possible. If you've got questions, leave a comment below. I can't promise I'll get back to you. However, I am making videos answering people's comments on YouTube. So if you ask a comment and I think it's a very good question and there's enough content there to make a video, I will make that video and post it on YouTube for you to watch, answering your question in as much detail as I possibly can give. If you'd like us to help you set up Monday.com for your business, check out the link below. We would love to help. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.